Hey everybody, welcome to Crime on the Record. My name is Jason and I'm here with my wife and co-host Candace. This week we are going to talk about the disappearance of Brandon Swanson.
Yes. So, Brandon Swanson was 19 years old when he went missing. He was, common, everyday 19-year-old college student. He went to Minnesota West Community and Technical College. That is a long name, so I almost got tongue twisted on that one. He was studying wind turbines, which I'm not going to lie to you, I'm not quite sure what that means. He was studying.
You don't know what wind turbines are?
I do, but what do you study about them?
I'm going to guess how they operate and how they turn wind into energy.
Okay.
That would be my guess.
What would you do later with that degree?
You would work on the wind turbines turning wind into energy.
Oh, okay.
You know those big white things that have three and it spins? It's three blades on it. Yeah, those big things. Yeah, those are.
But that's a big farming area too, where he's from, right?
Yeah, I did read.
So that would make sense.
Yeah, because he was looking forward to going to Iowa afterwards, so it makes sense that it would be out there. Yeah.
Okay. Unfortunately, he went missing on May 14th, 2008, and that really hit home for me because, you read a lot of these cases and it's just a date, but for me, May 14th is my birthday. And then even so with that, a lot of years I wouldn't remember, but that was the year we got married. So I can pretty well remember the year we got married on my birthday. So it's sad to think about what you were doing when this poor guy was coming up missing.
Yeah, that is very true. And, classes ended on May 13th, but, just like I'm sure every other college kid out there, he spent the evening hanging out with his friends, just kind of partying it up that, school was over, which is always, it's always fun. He was seen drinking at two different parties, which also not uncommon for kids to be doing. His friends, though, I think it's important to note this. His friends said he did not drink enough to be visibly impaired.
Yeah, I mean, one of them, one thing I was reading, they said that the only thing they could ever, and again, you read different reports, so who knows? There may be a different report out there that says differently, but the only one I could pin down that actually talked to how much alcohol was a person saying that the only thing they could actually verify he drank was a shot of whiskey. So it's like nobody actually saw him drink anything but a shot of whiskey.
Yeah.
That's not a lot.
No, it's not. It's really not. And he initially started the night in Lind. And if you are listening to a podcast, you can be sure to go to cotrpod.com and you can see all of the information that we're presenting during our YouTube channel here. But he started in Lind, which you can see is down there in the bottom right-hand corner. And then he went to a second party, which is in Canby, which is up in the upper left-hand corner.
I wonder, so how far apart is that as far as time-wise, you think?
I mean, from Canby to Taunton is 13 miles, so probably about 35-ish.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
From those two cities. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. It's about half an hour apart. I mean, for a college kid, that's nothing.
No.
All right. So he goes to these parties, and I mean, it's not like he was partying it up though, because most college kids, they don't go out till 10 o'clock. I don't even know how that's even when I was a college kid, it would be like midnight and I'm like, y'all ready to go home yet? My gosh, I'm tired. Like I already done my party and I was ready to go to bed. Yeah. I'm an old soul. But most kids are partying super late. So it also makes me wonder how much he had drank, because before midnight he left Canby to drive home to his parents' house. And that's pretty early to be leaving.
Yeah, it is.
However, just before 2 a.m., I think it was like 1:54, 1:56, depending on which article you read, he calls his parents and tells them that he has driven his Chevy Lumina off the road and was stuck in a ditch. He told him he wasn't hurt, but he did need them to come get him.
Yeah, and apparently he got it stuck to the point where like the car was it centered itself is what it said. So the ditch, I guess, was right up underneath the center of the car. So it was holding the front wheels and the back wheels off the ground just enough so he couldn't move it. So he couldn't get any traction on it. So it was just sitting up there. So you're all by yourself. You got your car doing that. Yeah, you're going to need some help. And I mean, and I think this is also where it's important that, people said he wasn't drunk. So just happened to, something happened on the way home. But his parents stayed on the phone with him while he was driving, while they were driving rather, to get him. And he stayed in his car. Well, when they go to where they thought he should be, which you can see there's a little question mark where he was telling where he thought he was, which is between Lind and Marshall where he lived. They couldn't see him. So what they did is they just tried, signaling by flashing their lights and honking the horn, and they couldn't see, he couldn't see them and he couldn't see them. So it was like, where each other were at, and they couldn't find each other. So
Yeah, and I could see how that would start getting frustrating. I mean, if you think 100% you know where you're at and you call somebody to come get you and you tell them the exact spot you're at and they are on the phone with you the entire way there, and all of a sudden they're like, "Well, we're here. Where are you?" You'd be like, "What do you mean, where am I? I'm right here."
yeah.
Like, if you're what I told you, then you should be here.
Well,
And so oh, go ahead.
and even if it was on a normal night where it was just like, hey, I need you to come pick me up here. And they're like, I'm here. And you're like, no, you're not. That would be irritating. But you imagine like you get your car stuck in a ditch and you're already like, God, what am I? You're already irritated. And then they're like, I'm here. And they're like, no, you're not. Because I'm here. You're not here. So yeah, it would get super
Right.
frustrating real fast.
Yeah. So, I mean, I could see it. And, especially when you're so frustrated that you're flashing your lights at each other and they're still not getting it, you feel like.
Mm.
So, at this point, Brandon gets so mad and frustrated with them that he hangs up on them, which probably not the nicest, most respectful thing to do, but we've all been college age kids, and you know, when you're that age, you also think your parents are stupid and don't understand anything. So you're like, how are these old people not able to find out where the hell I'm telling them I am?
Right. Yeah. Especially in my hometown.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So his mom calls him back and is trying to calm him down, and I get it, because at the end of the day, like, we still have to find you. So you need to slow your roll. I'll calm down. You calm down. Let's figure out where the hell you're at.
Mm-hmm.
But he's so frustrated at this point, and I get it. You don't want to just sit there all night if they seemingly have no idea where you're at. So Brandon gets the idea that he's gonna just give up and leave the car and start walking because he sees lights in the distance and he believes that that is Lind. Because at this point, he thinks, like you said, that he's in between Lind and Marshall. So his thought is, okay, well, I'll just walk to the lights and I'll be in Lind, and you can meet me at the parking lot of this local bar that they knew of. So he tells them, go to the bar, wait for me, pick me up there.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, it makes sense. I mean, I've walked home from places before. It's just like, so you just walk home, and I mean, it's a small town or small town area. So if you see a lot of lights, you got to think, hey, that's got to be the city, right? Well, his dad decided, all right, that's cool. I can pick you up. So he dropped his mom off at home before leaving back out towards Lynn. And now the entire time they're on the phone. So, I mean, from the time they called until, they called back after he hung up on him. But so they're on the phone the entire time. And as he's climbing fences and walking through fields, because he's trying to get to the Lynn as fast as he can, a little after 2:30 in the morning, which is about 47 minutes into the call, Brandon's dad hears Brandon say, "Oh shit," and then the phone went silent. The phone didn't go dead. The phone just went silent. And then it eventually, they couldn't get a response from him, so they finally hung up, and then they tried multiple times to call him back.
Which, had to be like, oh my gosh, what now?
Yeah, kind of, partially frustrating,
Yeah.
because, you don't think anything's wrong necessarily at that point. But then when you call and you can't get him to call and you can't get him to answer, now
Yeah.
you start getting concerned.
I mean, we may have mentioned before, but we had an instance when our son was younger where it turned out that he just decided he was going to get off the bus and go play with his friend, even though he was not allowed to do so. And so he just got off the bus and walked to the next neighborhood to play with his friend and let nobody know. So we were hysterical trying to find him. And I know as a parent, there's that part of you that is like, oh my God, my poor baby, please find him. But there's another part of you that's like, if this kid just ran off, I'm going to beat his ass when they bring him home.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
you're frustrated.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I could see that. So at this point, they don't know what to do. So his parents call his friends just to make sure, maybe he's called them back or if they know anything. And the friends come out and help the parents search, and they search for hours. By 6:30, though, his parents call the police department to report him missing. Because I mean, after that many hours, like you kind of at a loss of what to do.
Yeah, you really are.
So the police initially tell them, though, that it was not unusual for a guy his age to stay out all night after the last day of school. And his mom said that she specifically remembers one of the officers saying it was, quote, his right to be missing, which I'm sure as an parent um, enraged her.
Yeah, and I mean, I get the whole he's an adult, they're an adult, blah, blah, whatever. But I mean, let's consider how the phone call
Mm-hmm.
ended. I mean, this isn't, you can't find your kid and he's out partying. I mean,
Right.
he said what he said, and then you couldn't get him back on the phone after you've been on the phone with him for 45 minutes. I mean, so
Exactly.
that's a little, I don't know, irresponsible, I think. But uh, they finally started searching later that morning, but of course found no trace of him in Lind or outside of that town. And so they got his cell records, and they saw that he had actually been calling from the area of Taunton, which is along Highway 68, which is the main route from Canby back to Marshall. Now, you can see on the map here where we've got the little X where the car was located, and we couldn't get an exact area, but it's in that area right there, just a little bit north of Taunton. But Taunton is 25 miles away from Lind, which I'm not sure how he got so backwards on where he thought he was.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I mean, he left Canby, around midnight, and he called it, just before 2 and said his car was stuck. And I got on there that from Canby to Taunton is 13 miles. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure how it took almost 2 hours for him to get from the party to where his car was actually located.
Yeah. It makes no sense.
Yeah,
It really doesn't.
It does not.
Um, Once they do get to the correct area, they were able to find his car abandoned in a ditch, just like he told them. It was off a gravel road a mile north of Highway 68. So, right there where you're saying the X is. I mean, that makes sense. It looks about a mile from the highway right there on 68. And the way the sheriff explained it, like you said earlier, that his car had gotten hung up on the top of an incline at the edge of a road. So there was no serious damage to the car, but it was enough to keep the tires from touching the ground on one side, meaning that without help, he wasn't getting that car out of the ditch.
And how annoying would that be too?
Oh,
Because
gosh.
you're just like, I just want to get home,
Yeah.
and then you end up there stuck. And so they just find the car. It's stuck, like he said, no serious damage. They didn't find, police didn't find anything odd in or around the car that would, be suspicious. They were unable to find any tracks to see what direction he went in once he left the car. So there's no shoe prints or anything from him. And his cell had routed through a tower in another town along Highway 68 within 5 miles of the tower.
Yeah. And so they start searches there, and someone noticed that because you know how he had said that he saw lights. And so he thought that was Lind and he was going to walk towards the town. Well, someone noticed that there was a red light atop a nearby grain elevator, and they thought that maybe that was the light he saw and thought was Lind, which I don't know. That sounds kind of off to me because when I think of I'm seeing lights that I'm thinking is town, I'm seeing like bright lights that
Yeah,
indicate there's a town, not one random red light.
right. Yeah. Because I
So
mean,
I don't know.
yeah. I mean, I'm not walking towards that. That just tells me
Mm-mm.
there's a really tall tower of some sort in the
Yeah,
distance. That doesn't. Yeah.
but So they do aerial searches and ground searches, and including using search dogs. They get the dogs out there. That the dogs were able to track a scent for 3 miles to an abandoned farm, and then along Yellow Medicine River to where it appeared to enter that he had entered a stream. However, the dog went across to the other side and along the riverbank to the north to the county line and then ended. So at first, people have made a big to do about the fact that the dog tracked it to the water, but then they fail to continue to listen to where it says the dog also went through it and up the other side.
Yeah. But and what's weird is looking at these rivers, I'm trying to figure out, like, they're talking about Yellow Medicine River, but his car was found a little bit closer to Mud Creek, but not sure. His parents said that he had mentioned, passing fences and hearing water nearby when they were on the phone together, which makes sense because there's a couple of rivers out there. Since they thought he might have fallen into the river, law enforcement deployed boats to look for him and had deputies walk the river's bank. And the water had been 10 feet across in some places the morning he disappeared, but it had gone down since then. And this is kind of what it may have looked like. I mean,
And to me, it's a
wide.
real what, but I wonder where is the road? And we had not been able to find anything that indicates that. Because, if the road's on this low side, okay, maybe he walked down through there. But what they're saying is he went across and went back up. I don't think he walked back up all of that.
Yeah, and
So
I
it
mean,
had to have been further down.
yeah, because I mean, and like we said, this isn't an exact place, but if this
Yeah.
was one of the places, I mean, you're not walking up that other side.
No.
Yeah.
I don't really see you going down it in the dark without falling.
That's the only way.
And they said the dog walked up to the stream, not like, they had to traverse all this stuff. So I imagine it's further down or up, where it flattens out some.
Yeah.
So after this initial search where they didn't find anything, they pretty much abandoned the search. I think they said that this initial search went on for about 3 weeks, but maybe 2 to 3 weeks, but then, they didn't find anything, and so they gave up. But the Lincoln County Sheriff walked 2 miles of the river every day for 30 days, which I thought was pretty amazing on his part.
Yeah, because I mean, he didn't have to.
No, I mean, they had given up the search pretty much. After the fields were harvested later in the fall, they began a new search. And on this search, dogs followed a scent into an area that had not been searched before. His scent was found on some farm equipment. However, the farmer refused to allow them to search the land.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really curious as to what equipment.
Yeah. And also, why won't you let him look?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's. I mean, what's the other thing that's kind of weird is how the dogs, they found a scent initially, and then they found a scent in a different area. But and then you get to that farmer's land, he's like, "Nope, you're not looking here."
Yeah, it's just so odd.
Yeah, it really is. So every spring and fall, they continued to search until 2011. So you're talking 3 years afterwards, and they managed to cover 122 square miles of this land out there, and they never found anything.
Which is amazing. Yeah. To not have found anything.
Not a thing. I mean, I don't think part of that 122 square miles was the farmer's land. So, but I mean, that's the story. Like that's it. I mean, he was at a party, went to another one, was on his way home, car stuck, heard him say, "Oh shit, never seen again."
Yeah. But I mean, there are some additional tidbits of information and some theories that have come up. So, one thing is that they made mention in one article about his being blind in his left eye. So, could that have, caused him to run off the road that night? I could see that.
Yeah, I mean, your depth perception is going to be thrown off because I mean, have you ever tried to walk with one eye closed?
No,
No,
because I feel like I would immediately fall.
you would. Yeah, I don't like it when you walk a lot of places with both eyes open. So yeah, I mean it's tough. Um, the other thing, and we kind of talked about, is he left the party a little bit before midnight and didn't call until almost 2 o'clock. And yeah, he did try and call some friends before he called his parents. Because I mean, I would still do that today at 43. I would still try and call somebody else before I call my mom and dad on some things. But either way, how did it take him almost 2 hours to go that 13 miles?
Yeah, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. The only thing I can think is that somebody being drunk got their times wrong. Or, he walked out of the party at 12 and when you're drinking, time has a different sense of reality. So like
Yeah.
maybe he stood outside talking for another 30 minutes, 45 minutes before he got into his car.
Yeah, I
I don't
mean,
know because
it,
that's unreal. That makes no sense.
yeah, that's the only thing I can think of. I mean, even if he spent a half an hour trying to get in touch with somebody else before he called his parents, still, I mean,
Mhm.
that's an hour and a half to get 13 miles. No, that
I
doesn't
wonder
cut it.
how long he um, took trying to get the car out himself before he called anyone.
Hmm. I don't know.
I mean, I don't know. The way they make it sound, it's a very dark gravel road. So I don't know how much you are going to be out there trying to do on your own. But at the same time, if you're thinking like, oh my God, my parents are going to be so pissed I just wrecked this car. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. They're going to have to come get me. You're probably really hesitant to call.
Yeah, and the other thing that's weird is why he was on that road,
Yeah.
because it wasn't the main road. Like, if we're looking at, we go back to the map here and look, I mean, the main road is State Highway 68 going from Canby to
Mm-hmm.
Marshall. So I'm not sure why he was out, a mile or so north of Taunton. I know his friend said he wasn't drunk, but was he out there trying to avoid something, or was he took a different way home? I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, to me, like, it just makes me wonder, like, one of two things. Either did he make another stop that has not been accounted for?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what took that extra time. Like, we know he attended 2 parties. How do we know he didn't attend 3 or something, or met up with somebody or something? Um, but and that would account for a lot of that time. But also, like, he could have been drinking more than people theorized, and maybe that's why he took the back roads, and the back roads got him confused. But even with back roads, I'm like, how do you not get the direction you're going in?
Yeah. And I mean, it being really dark and him being, blind in his left eye, you're out there on some roads that maybe you don't travel on that much. And
Yeah.
if you have been drinking a little bit and your depth perception is already off, I could see how you can get your car stuck. So maybe that's why he was out there. I don't know. I mean, I don't want to say he was drinking and driving, because I mean, I'm not trying to say that about him.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm just trying to figure out why he was there.
Well, and the thing too is that, when he talked to his parents, they say that he didn't sound impaired in any way. And when he left the party, the people said he didn't sound impaired. But, the people at the party, if they're drunk, how do they know he didn't sound impaired? You
Yeah.
know,
And it's
anybody
all,
less drunk than you sounds
yeah.
sober.
Yeah. I was going to say it's all relative at that point. So
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
And with parents, I mean, I don't know, a lot of things sober you up pretty quick or you can talk your way out of it. So,
It's true. Nothing like being stuck in a ditch. Yeah.
ugh, yeah. So some people believe he drowned, that some of the searches led towards that Yellow Medicine River and that he got close to the river, fell in, and drowned. However, investigators think that is unlikely since his body has not been recovered because they believe that had he been in the water, his body would have been found by now.
Yeah. And I mean, depending on where, I mean, looking at the two rivers here, I mean, it's hard to see on the slides that I have, but I mean, down here on Yellow Medicine River, and then also on Mud Creek, I mean, those are both really long rivers.
Yeah.
I mean, they go on for a while. And
But
so
they said they set up gates, so I just wonder how far he could have gotten by the time they got those gates up.
that is true.
Because if they
Yeah.
got a gate up, that would have stopped him from traveling any further, right?
Yeah, it would have. And depending on, because some of the time it was it was pretty deep. Some of the times it was shallow. So you would think he would eventually, they would recover his body somewhere. And I mean, looking at this picture of the river here, I mean, it doesn't look like there's a lot of places where, something would catch his body. So it may have flowed further down than what they thought. But I don't know. It's hard when you're talking about water. I mean, just because somebody goes in it doesn't mean they always come back up. I mean, you could have gotten caught on something underneath, or I mean, it's hard to say.
Yeah.
And, with the dog going to the river and then across it, makes you think that, okay, even if he did go into the river, maybe he got across it and he went, he kept walking out after he got out. But if he was able to climb out of the river, it was pretty cold that night. I think it was close to 40 degrees. So if you're wet and it's 40 degrees, I mean, hypothermia, it wouldn't take long for that to set in. But even if that would have happened, you think the dogs would have found him. There would have been a scent, whether it be from the tracking dogs or the cadaver dog. But they
Yeah, and I mean, and that was another thing that the investigators brought up, that it was very hard for them to understand how what happened could have had anything to do with the lake, because had he fell in, they would have found the body. Had he climbed out and died of hypothermia, the dogs should have found him.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, and both of those things, I mean, they make sense. In 2021, it was stated that the river dried up due to drought and they were able to excavate but found nothing. But I'm kind of with you, like, what does dried up mean? Because, and I've been trying to like pull pictures, because like you said, that's a big river. Like the whole thing dried up.
Yeah, and going back to, it's kind of hard to see, but on where it says the city there, Taunton, if you can see just to the right of it, there's that river. It looks like a tributary coming down to the east. So for you, to the right side,
Yeah.
I know of Taunton, and it ends, that tributary ends right there, just underneath the city. But it doesn't make, like, he would have to enter the river like to the northeast, because this river flows southwest. So I'm with you. Like, if you're talking about the river, it dried up, which part? Because
Yeah.
it can't be all of it. Was there just a part in that area that they thought dried up? Because now we're asking the question: are we talking about Yellow Medicine, or are we talking about Mud Creek?
Yeah.
So that's the other thing.
And maybe, I don't know, maybe the part that they were able to hole up, or gate up, or whatever.
Yeah. So that area that they were looking for him, from where the dogs found the scent, and then until they were able to, put a gate at the other end. And I mean, I guess it all depends on what's the current like to that river. Is it really strong, or is it really weak? And I would think of something called Mud Creek, we're not talking about, water that's pouring through that area.
No, but I did read that they said that on the day that this happened, that Yellow Medicine River was high and flowing pretty quickly.
Yeah, that would make sense, since he told his since he told his parents he could hear water flowing.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's a pretty good. I mean, that's a pretty good current if you can hear it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And and people always go here, whenever they're talking about theories or whatever. Mental illness, they always think there could be something, but there's no history of his family having mental illness. Some still believe that he could have had a mental breakdown and died by suicide. I don't know. No history of it. That's one thing. But like,
Yeah.
what would have caused him to have a mental break? Like, he was done with school, and like he was getting ready to go to, continue his education in Iowa. So what kind of mental breakdown are we talking about here?
Well, and you don't plan a mental breakdown. That's why it's called a breakdown. It just
Right.
happens.
Yeah.
So I doubt your breakdown started with, oh shit, as you're walking through the woods on the phone with your parents. I
Right.
just don't,
Yeah.
I don't believe that whatsoever.
No, that's no.
I mean, I think, when people get desperate, which I completely understand in this case, you get desperate and you start throwing anything you can at the wall to see if anything sticks. So I understand it. But I don't think that has anything to do with it. I think an even less likely theory is that he left to start over somewhere else and is still alive. Because I've heard people say that. I don't see that. I mean,
No.
the level of sophistication that would take to pull off and not be found out. I'm not saying he wasn't intelligent, but he also was super young.
Yeah, at 19, you're just ready
Yeah.
to start over.
Like he's not figuring out how to do his own
Yeah.
witness protection
Yeah.
program.
Right? It's like you haven't even started yet. What's there to start over?
Right?
And how are you like either dying by suicide or this whole theory that he started over somewhere else on the phone with your parents?
Mm-hmm.
Like you just decided to call them and let them know that you're gonna go missing?
Yeah.
Come on. This doesn't make any sense at all. But some of the other things that are out there is that it was a hit and run and the driver panicked. My thing, we're looking at the roads out there. I mean, it's already an area that's not, it's not heavily populated. And then you get off of State Highway 68 and you're out there on some gravel roads. So the chances of somebody being out there to, accidentally hit him is very slim anyway. And after he said, "Oh shit," the phone didn't die. Like the phone was still, they could still, if he would have been able to talk, they would have heard him. So
Yeah.
it would have either heard him, they would have heard somebody else, they would have heard a car door, a car driving away. Like you would have heard other noises. And they didn't hear anything. So that one I don't put a lot of weight behind.
Yeah. Exactly. One thing that was mentioned, and I don't know that I even really believe this, some random, because I only saw this in one article, and it was some firefighter said that he left his glasses in the car when he got out, and that could have accounted for him being disoriented because he can't see out of one eye. But I only wear reading glasses, so I know that I don't have a lot of experience. But like you made the comment of you're not going anywhere without your glasses.
No, I have double vision, and with my glasses on, I don't. So I'm not going anywhere without my glasses. So I mean, like, and if he's blind in one eye and he has some other reasons for wearing glasses, he's damn sure not going anywhere without them. So
And like you said, why take them off? Why were they even off?
Trust me, he's not taking his glasses off.
Yeah, because I mean, they showed no damage in the car. They showed nothing in the car that showed he had gotten hurt in any way. So that the glasses weren't broken. They didn't show his head hitting any windows, or because that was one of the first things they thought was, could he have a brain trauma from a wreck and walked off because he was disoriented. And they searched the car and found nothing. So those glasses weren't slung into the floorboard or broke or anything. So that makes no sense.
Yeah, and if I ever go missing and my glasses are left behind, just know I didn't just walk away. There's some foul play going on.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I can't see without these things, and they're expensive. So if I'm going to start over somewhere else, I'm not going to start over with that to pay. So just know. And I mean, if he's already had trouble seeing, I mean, look at this picture, like of the river again. All that brush and everything on the side of the road, on the
Yeah,
side
you
of the
ain't trying to
river.
traverse that without
No,
glasses.
no, definitely not. And it's dark outside. I mean, I could see potentially if he was like, "Oh shit," if and like we said, this isn't exactly where he was, where the car was found. But if he did make that comment and dropped his phone and then say it was an area like this and fell off the side of that cliff or whatever, the hill, and rolled down, okay, but still the dogs would have tracked him to that area. So
yeah.
And one of the things that they mentioned was as he was walking, just before he said, "Oh shit," he also said, "Not another fence." So, I mean, could he have climbed another fence and then fell over the side, and that's why it made him, say that? But even then, where did he go?
Yeah. I mean, it just doesn't make any
Like,
sense at all.
none of these make any sense. The only one, I don't know, the only one that makes sense to me is maybe he did fall in the river and he got further down than what they thought before they could actually start, doing a proper search. Also, have some questions about this whole farmer not letting them search his land part.
Yeah, and I don't know if I even put that in the notes. Did we even bring that up yet?
I mean, we talked about it earlier, but not hearing the theories part.
Yeah, I didn't think so. Yeah, I mean, because you said that they had a piece of equipment that they found that the dogs traced his scent to.
Yeah, and not just tracked his scent to the farm. No, it said in the article that they found his scent on a piece of farm equipment. So
That's a big deal to me.
yeah,
Like that's something.
what kind of but it didn't say what.
Yeah.
What kind of equipment are we talking about here? And then so you take that along with this guy won't let you search his property. I
Yeah,
mean,
just
that's kind
so
of
odd.
that's a little sketch for me because
Super.
even if you were doing something illegal and there was a kid missing, you'd almost be like to the cops, be like, all right, look, let's hypothetically say I got some illegal stuff going on. And you want to look for this kid on my property. So you're going to look the other way if you hypothetically see some illegal stuff going on. So if so, then yeah, you can come and search. If not, then no. But I mean, just to flat out say, no, you're not coming on my property. It seems a little, I don't know. And maybe I'm wrong because I mean, that seems like something that, people in the South would do, not so much in Minnesota. I mean, I don't know. It seems like a Southern thing, but maybe not so much. Maybe it's everywhere. But it just, why wouldn't you help?
Yeah. It just, I don't know. It's hard to think of like what you even think. I mean, in most cases, there's something. You're like, well, it's this or this, or I think it's this. But I mean, like even his parents, a lot of these situations, it comes down to, oh, this is so sad. These parents can't accept what happened, and you're thinking, he fell in the stream, and the parents are trying to hold on to it being something else, but the parents aren't even like that. I mean, the parents, the first thing was like, maybe he fell in the river,
Yeah.
So, and even the parents are like, well, foul play doesn't really make sense. So it's not, it's like nobody understands what could have happened.
Yeah.
It's
Because
so odd.
especially with him being on the phone with him
Yeah.
from the time he called him until he vanished. I mean, like honestly, I don't even the whole farmer thing, not letting him on his property. Like there's no other sounds. There's nothing. There's no cars. There's no animal noises. There's no anything.
Yeah.
I mean, when we talked about Henry and McCabe, we had that 911 call where there was a lot of noise. And I mean, it leads to a lot of speculation. But for him, it's like
Yeah.
he was walking and then almost like he tripped and then that was it.
Yeah. And like, the sheriff verified that his phone was on for at least a day after this happened. So it's not as if if he went into the river that the phone went in with him, because it would have automatically had damage, would have went straight to voicemail.
Yeah.
But it wasn't doing that. So, it leads you to believe the phone was still on. Well, okay. So then you think, well, maybe he dropped the phone before he went in the water. Like maybe he tripped, dropped the phone, and went in the water. But okay, well then why didn't the dogs find the phone? So it's just
Yeah.
everything. So
Yeah. I mean, it would be hard to find a phone out, we're looking at this. I
yeah,
mean, it would be hard to find a phone out there, but you would think, talking about how they searched over the last, 3 years after he was missing, they covered 122 square miles.
yeah,
You think that they would potentially find the phone at least,
yeah,
searching in that area, but I don't know. It's tough. I mean, I can't imagine. I mean, just like every other case, but especially this one, I can't imagine what it's like to hear your son say what he said
yes,
and then nothing, not to find anything.
yeah,
And even when the river dried up, they didn't find any remains of anyone.
yeah. I mean, that's the craziest part.
Yeah.
Unlike other news reports of missing people where there's absolutely nothing that good comes out of it and you're just left heartbroken. This is so sad, and I hope to God that they are able to find Brandon one day. But there was able to be something good come from it, which I think hopefully provides some comfort to his family to know that, he left a legacy behind. So, following his disappearance, his parents were still pretty upset about the initial response they got when they tried to report him missing. Because, initially it was, well, he's an adult, he can go missing. So, this led Annette and Brian Swanson to lobby for changes in state law. They did initially get some resistance from law enforcement and the law enforcement community because of issues with privacy, such as when you can and cannot ping a cell phone, which I get. If you got somebody who's of age, you start getting into those, well, should we be able to ping their phone? Should we not? But in July of 2009, the law took effect. And in fact, on July 1st, 2009, and it requires law enforcement to take a missing persons report without delay when notified of a person missing under dangerous circumstances, no matter the person's age. It seems as if they changed the language to read from when notified of a child missing to when notified of a person missing. So they don't have, that hands tied behind their back where they can't really do anything because the person's of age.
Yeah,
Which I like.
but I mean, isn't that like common sense?
It should be, but
mean,
evidently not.
Okay, you have a right to go and start your life over if you want to because you're an adult. Okay, you don't have a right to have something potentially bad happen to you and nobody investigate.
Yeah.
I mean, this isn't, hey, he's been missing for a couple of days. I can't find him. No, I was on the phone with him. I heard this and then nothing. I mean, that's completely different. I mean, it is common sense, but it is good to hear that the law has changed, at least in Minnesota anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that it should be like that everywhere because the thing is, like, I understand that people go missing and sometimes it's overprotective or overbearing parents or somebody, is trying to get away from somebody and they want to be missing. They want you to just leave them alone. But, you know, we also know that the first 24 to 48 hours is the most important. So, how in good conscience can we tell people, well, we know that, but we're just going to wait because it hadn't been long enough and they're an adult?
Yeah.
I mean, that doesn't make any sense.
I mean, just think about it. If they had to wait 48 hours, I mean, because if he did fall into the river and the river was flowing pretty strong that day, just the few hours that it took them to get out there, I mean, who knows how far he could have gone down the river. But let's just say we're talking about a bigger river like the Mississippi or something like that, and you wait 48 hours. Well, you might as well not even bother to look. I mean, you're never going to find him.
Yeah.
So at least now it's immediate. But you can see on the screen here, it is an age progression of Brandon, of how he would look, at about age 31. So you can see up in the top left is his age when he was 19, and then the age progression to now. If you do have any information, whatever it may be, you should contact the Lincoln County Sheriff's Office at 1-507-694-1664 or the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, which is 1-800-THE-LOST, which is 1-800-843-5678.
Yes.
And hopefully, I mean, I don't know. We can only hope that one day he's found or there's information that leads to some kind of closure for the family, because like we talk about all the time, I cannot even imagine what it's like to have this happen and then just not have any answers. So,
and I mean, especially after all these years, I think that inevitably you're going to get to a point where you're like, okay, they're probably not with us anymore, but you still want to be able to lay your child to rest.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like we talked about last week, where his father was like, hey, I know he's not alive anymore. I just want his body so I can, bury him properly. And same thing here. I mean, this kid was 19. He wasn't starting over.
No.
He wasn't starting a new life. He wasn't
even started life yet.
Yeah. I mean, something happened, and if anybody has anything they know about, I don't know. So, but that is everything we have for Brandon Swanson. So
That is it.
we will be back next week with another case. Thanks for
Yep.
listening, guys.